Now, we want to cover yet something very important in basic pharmacology, and that is none other than drug nomenclature. Drug nomenclature. And drug nomenclature simply means the naming of drugs. We are going to see that a drug has basically three names. It has what we call the generic name, it has what we call the brand name, and it has what we refer to as the chemical name. Now, all these can be said by other names, but essentially they are basically three names. Let's first start with the generic name, also referred to as non-proprietary name or official name. So what is this name? Now, this is the name that is given by the responsible authority in that country, and it is referred to as the official name, and it is usually chosen by the government or by the state in that country. Like, for example, the United States government can give a name to a particular drug. The British government, the Indian, German, or even Japanese government can give a name to that drug. Now, that name is what we refer to as the official name of that drug. Now, most cases you will find these names having an addition. In addition to the name itself, you'll have them having USP, or you'll find it having BP, or sometimes you'll find it having JP, which is Japanese pharmacopoeia, or sometimes you'll find it having European pharmacopoeia. So that necessarily means that this is the name that was given by that state or by that authority to this particular drug. I have an example of a drug, and that is none other than ketoconazole soap. Now, ketoconazole soap has a name which is called ketoconazole, and as you can see, ketoconazole followed by the word or by the acronym USP. So that basically means that is its generic name. With me, I also have another drug, prednisolone, and it has prednisolone prednisolone BP, which basically means that it is the generic name of that drug. The other name that is relevant for any drug is what we refer to as the brand name. But it can also be called the trade name or the registered name or what we call the proprietary name. All those basically mean one thing. Now, this is the name that is given by the pharmaceutical industry or by the manufacturer that manufactured this drug. And so it usually has a symbol R as a superscript on top of that name, or you'll find a symbol TM as a superscript on top of that name. Yeah, R standing for registered name and TM standing for trademark. Yeah, so that is what we refer to as the brand name, trade name, proprietary name, or even registered name. And so you will find that one drug or one generic can end up having several brand names depending on the manufacturer. The other thing that is important to note here is that if it is one company or it is a company that is the sole producer or is the one that came up with the you would call it a recipe of this particular medication. Then this company or this manufacturer is given rights, what we refer to as patent rights, to produce this medication for 20 years. And then after, it can be opened up to other manufacturers. The point here is that why are they given that much time is that it is very expensive to come up with a new drug, as we shall see as we move along in our course unit. Now, the other name is what we refer to as the chemical name. Now, the chemical name is the name that is known by the pharmacist, rather by the chemist. Not the pharmacist, but the chemist, the person who actually goes in the lab and puts up a few things to make this medication. The chemist. And it is generally known what we call the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemists. Now, the name that they give to that drug is what we refer to as the chemical name. You will not find it quite often used because it is known to the chemists. Now, what you will find quite often used is what we refer to as the generic name. So for purposes of examination, or wherever you will go, whichever exams you will do, you will always be subjected to the generic name. And that is what you ought to know. And so we have some examples of drugs referred to by their three different names. Like, for example, we have a drug called diazepam, and that is its generic name. Now, the trade name, one of the trade names, remember I told you it depends on the manufacturer. Now, one company or one manufacturer calls it Valium. One manufacturer calls it Valium. And then the chemical name is 7-chloro, 1,3-dihydro, 1-methyl-5-phenyl, 2H-1,4-benzodiazepine 2-on. So in other words, that is the chemical name. And as you can see, it is quite complex. And so we shall not by any way subject you to this. The other example is meperidine. That's a generic name. And it is referred to as Demerol by one of the manufacturers with a chemical name of ethyl-1-methyl-4 phenyl superonate hydrochloride. Yeah, so that is its chemical name. And then lastly, aspirin is the generic name. It's known as Ecotrin by one of the manufacturers, and then acetylsalicylic acid as the chemical name. Yeah, so those are the examples of generic names, trade names, and chemical names of these drugs. Now, lastly, we want to look at, it is very important to know, one, what drug form you're actually giving, the dose, but also the manufacturer, the lot numbers, and all those other details. So before you is an example of a drug which is known as erythromycin delayed release tablets. So in other words, erythromycin is the generic name of this drug, and guess, or you can read Erytab as the brand name of this drug. Now, we can also see the dosage. We can also see the drug form. The drug form basically means how that drug comes. In what form does it come? And in this particular context, we see tablets. But we also see the lot number, and the expiration date. It is very, very important to always refer or always look at the date of expiry before you administer this medication. But we also see the manufacturers of this medication. And so it is very, very important for you to be able to know this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell or in summary, we have looked at drug nomenclature. And we said that a drug is named by 3 names. And the first one is referred to as the generic name, then the brand name, and then the chemical name. And we said that in all the exams we shall be doing, or in further pharmacology that you will come across, drugs are generally referred to by their generic name. And when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we shall see drug classification. But before we go into that, let us do this test to see whether you have understood what we mean by drug nomenclature.